Welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. My name is Trish Gray, and I'll be your host for this edition of Toastmaster Time. Just like in a regular meeting, we're going to have prepared speeches. We're then going to evaluate them to give them feedback and help them improve. For that, we have our very own evaluator, George Marshall. George, can you give us an idea of what's on the show today?
Sure, Trish. We have a couple of really interesting speakers. One of our speakers is going to take us through a walk in high technology, explaining how the Internet of Things works. Our next speaker takes us a completely different direction, entertainment, and we're going to hear humorous take on the dating scene in San Francisco.
Oh, that sounds very interesting. I can't wait to hear these speeches. But let's start by introducing our first guest, Shyam Nath. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And what club are you with?
I'm with Electric Speakers at General Electric.
How long have you been a Toastmaster?
About 3 years.
2 years, okay. Now, we know because District 57 is the first one to go on to the Toastmasters new educational program called Pathways. You're a guide. Why did you volunteer or step up to be a Pathways guide?
I'm personally very excited about the Pathways. It's a digital version of Toastmasters, and I wanted to make sure I help others master it as well.
What are some of the things you're finding, since it's totally brand new with the clubs you're working with? What are some of the maybe things that surprised you or maybe stumbling blocks that people are finding?
I think people are still a little confused that they don't get credit of their existing education if they switch. So they have to make this hard decision if they have already started with their previous journey.
Oh, so for existing members, they have to choose, stick with the old program or convert to the new program. Cool, great. Well, now, what path did you choose?
I did the self-assessment, and it came up with dynamic leadership, and I'm following that.
Oh, awesome, wonderful. So are you ready to give your speech?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll just stay there for just a moment. And in the meantime, I just wanted to let our viewers know that whether with the old program or the new program, we still give speeches based upon certain objectives. There's specific things we want to learn out of each project, which means we have objectives, we have requirements that we're going to be trying to fulfill. And with that, we're going to have our evaluator, George Marshall, give us the objectives for Shyam. So welcome back, George.
Thank you.
And what are Shyam's objectives?
Shyam is doing the Using Descriptive Language project. It resembles somewhat programs that we've done on the current program, but he is going to be trying to create vivid descriptions of his picture using both literal and figurative language. And the idea he's trying to do is increase both the interest in his program and impact on the viewers by the words that he uses.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing that. So let's go ahead and introduce our first speaker, Shyam Nath, Demystifying Internet of Things. Demystifying Internet of Things, Shyam Nath.
Last Wednesday, my friend Jay called me in the evening. He reminded me that it's spring. The bloom is out there. This implies we need to start planning for our summer camping trip at Yosemite. I got really excited. My eyes lit up, and I quickly went on the computer to search on the internet for tents, sleeping bag, portable stove, and mat. When I slept, I even dreamt of being in Yosemite. I could really hear the waterfall in my ears. Next morning, I got up, went to work, got really busy, and forgot all about it. In the evening when I came home, I realized I needed to go to the supermarket to buy milk, cereal, and some paper for my printer. As soon as I walked into the grocery store, my phone buzzed. I picked up my phone and I saw there was a notification which said, "You have just received a coupon for 30% off the tents, and they are in aisle 18. It continued to say that if I bought the bundle of the tent, the stove, the sleeping bag, and the mat, I would save 50% off the individual prices. How bizarre! I had forgotten all about the trip that I had started to plan last evening, but somebody did not. I had just experienced an application of Internet of Things. Before I explain what this Internet of Things implies, let's look at the definition of Internet of Things. We have all known about Internet, which connects computers and servers to the people. People use it for e-commerce, such as buying at Amazon, or for social media, or for websites for companies, their corporate presence. But in Internet of Things, physical objects such as tables, chairs, cars, or fixed objects like buildings, or could be plants or human beings, they are connected to the network or to the Internet. So, why would we connect the things to the Internet? We can collect a lot of information, and that information can be processed for meaningful outcomes. Let us go back and look at the retail store example. When I walked into the store, the sensors in the store identified me as the person who had searched on the Internet about certain things. They were able to pull my loyalty information, and they knew what kind of things I wanted to buy in general, and I had done certain searches by combining data from different places and applying analytics to it. They were then able to give me an offer at the right time by sensing my position in the store, which in fact allowed me to act on that offer because it matched my interest. Now, some people might think it is really bizarre, it is an invasion of privacy. Well, there are different perspectives. The Internet of Things is coming around us. So, let us look at what are the various ways we can make use of it. The Internet of Things comes in multiple flavors. There can be consumer Internet, which consumer Internet of Things will consist of things like wearables like Fitbit, some Nike shoes have sensors, or the Google Nest, which connects our thermostat and our heating and cooling system to the Internet. By connecting such things to the Internet, we are able to get information and convert that into meaningful outcomes. In the case of thermostat, it helps to optimize the experience in terms of the right amount of heating and cooling, and at the same time helping to conserve energy. Internet of Things can be in the commercial space. When we drive on the highways, we pay tolls. Our car along with us and the fast pass acts as a thing in this case, and by application of data and analytics such as what time of day it is, which lane are we in, the toll amount varies. That is another example of commercial Internet of Things. There are industrial devices, for instance an aircraft's engine, or a train. These are examples of industrial Internet of Things. So, what does that imply? Let us imagine you have gone to the restaurant, you had a nice portion of the entree, and now you are eating the cheesecake. You are wearing a wearable, something like a Fitbit. And now imagine the next thing that pops up on your Fitbit is that your doctor's appointment has been set up, followed by a glucose test of your blood, and your health insurance rate just went up. There are different ways to look at Internet of Things. The best thing is we understand it, we embrace it, because it is here. Once we are able to understand it, then we will be able to put it to good use for the benefit of the humankind. Thank you.
Oh boy, I know it's here. It kind of scares me sometimes, but let's talk about his speech and how well Shyam did against his objectives.
He gave a very interesting speech. This speech was interesting to me too, and I did not aware of all the things that the Internet could do for you. But specifically against his objectives, he was supposed to be using descriptive language, and he started right off by doing a great job. He was dreaming of Yosemite. He made me think of the sound of the waterfall that was running in the park. And then after he got us into the store, he used very descriptive language to point out a coupon on aisle 18. I thought that was a nice job of using the language.
Yeah, and it flowed in a nice story also, so we could follow what he was doing. For me, it helped me connect with him, which was kind of the non-threatening part of his speech, you know. But then when he got into the Internet of Things, you know, that's where you kind of go, oh my gosh. So, I mean, that was kind of my feeling, was in a very nice way, he kind of led us up into kind of a little scary sort of subject, but by using the story, by letting us connect with that visual language, that helped.
Certainly did. He did a very nice job of painting a picture that
Yes.
it made it very understandable. And you notice that he used several examples. There were very specific examples. It wasn't generalities.
Yes.
He really brought it home by giving us scenarios that we could relate to.
Okay, awesome, great. Well, thank you very much for that feedback, and I'll look forward to hearing from you again a little bit later. But for now, we have to take a short break. You're watching Toastmaster Time, and we'll be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. I'm here with our second guest, Leah Cole. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And what club are you with?
I'm a member of Electric Speakers at General Electric in San Ramon.
So you and Shyam are both from the same club.
We are.
Wonderful. And how long have you been in Toastmasters?
I've been in Toastmasters about 1.5 years.
Ah, okay. Now, as I understand it, you competed in the humorous speech contest last fall.
I
and
did.
This is your district level speech, correct?
Correct.
Ooh, okay. Now, for viewers, what goes into a humorous speech?
A good story is a good place to start, and I think not taking yourself too seriously. Someone suggested I enter the humorous speech contest. It may have even been Shyam, and I said, ooh, but I don't have a story. And then I thought about it, and I said, well, I have lots of stories if I'm willing to poke a little bit of fun at myself.
Ah, okay. So you just kind of take an ordinary situation and
Yep,
put a little humorous spin on it, perhaps poke a
Absolutely.
little fun at yourself?
definitely.
Wonderful. Okay. Are you ready to give your speech?
I am.
Okay. Well, just stay there for just a moment. And in the meantime, I wanted to let our viewers know that Toastmasters International truly is worldwide, international. We have clubs in just about all across the world, over 300,000 members in about 13,000 clubs. No matter where you go in the world, you're sure to find a Toastmasters club that love guests. Happy to have you stop in and say hi. So let's go ahead and talk back with our evaluator, George. So can you give us Leah's objectives, please?
Certainly. Now, Leah, this is a contest speech, and so she has additional things she did. But she is speaking from the Vocal Variety Project in the Competent Communicator. So her goal is to use her voice to give us plenty of variety, not a monotone, but high volumes, low volumes, and add expression to the voice.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Let's go ahead and introduce our second speaker, Leah Cole. I had a plan. I had a plan. Leah Cole.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Leah Cole, and I'm here to tell you how I single-handedly am protecting the hearts and souls of the men of the Bay Area. Before I moved to California, my friends and family in Massachusetts asked me what I was most looking forward to. I gave them the answers they were expecting to hear. My new job, big girl grown-up apartment, leaving behind the frigid New England winter. But what I really wanted to say was a whole new dating pool, completely free of those boys that I'd been in school with from kindergarten through 12th grade. and those college ones that come with the pesky graduation expiration date. Leah Cole, I had a plan. I would date 3 or 4 guys, maybe at the same time if I was feeling brave, and one of them would inevitably prove to be my Prince Charming. He would be kind, funny, smart, have a stable income, be willing to follow me to the ends of the earth. How hard could it be? Super hard, it turns out. Once I made it to California, I realized I had no idea how to find such a person. I have some great friends, and they reminded me that there is an app or 2 or 3 for that. So I got downloading, and Leah Cole, I made a plan. Turns out that there are 3 stages to dating with an app. The first is profile evaluation. A potential Prince Charming will have at least 1 solo picture. I'm looking to date him, not his friends. That picture won't be of his car. In it, he won't be drinking excessively. All of his clothes will be on. There will be no small children. And if there are, that relationship will be clearly explained in the profile because I am 23 years old and not ready to be a mother. He will not be smoking in that picture. And in that profile, he will not be telling me how 420 friendly he is, especially not using the maple leaf emoji. If you're so 420 friendly, you should know the difference between a maple leaf and a marijuana leaf. And once we've gotten through that very reasonable criteria, we move on to stage number 2. That would be messaging. There are only 3 kinds of messages I find completely unacceptable. The first, immediate declaration of love. That's creepy. You don't know me. I'm not interested. The second is starting off by being inappropriate. That's really creepy. You don't know me. Super not interested. And the third is the worst of all. The third is, hey. No punctuation, maybe a capital H if you're lucky. It's not that creepy. Still don't know me. Try harder. I'm not interested. After a month and a half of the Bay, only 1 candidate made it through stages 1 and 2. We moved on to stage 3, actually meeting. It was at this point I remembered a very important detail about myself, and that is that I hate dating. The thing about dating is it means I have to suppress my natural old lady-like tendencies. I like to stay home. I like to go to bed early. Favorite hobbies of mine include crocheting and embroidery. And when my mom calls, not only do I talk to her, but I also talk to my 2 cats, Flora and Fauna. They say hi. I knew that if I had to get over this, that there was only one thing I could do. So Leah Cole, I made a plan. We would go someplace with pizza and beer because if all went wrong, at least I'd have 2 of my favorite things. But let's be real. There was no way I was walking out of this date without a second one. Sure enough, at the end of the night, it was clear. He had had an amazing time, and he definitely wanted a second date. And at the end of the night, it was clear. I had had a perfectly nice time, and I definitely did not want that second date. I figured that this would go one of 2 ways. The first was that he would ghost me. I had misread the situation, I would never hear from him again, and we would go lead our separate lives. This was the ideal case. The second was that he would send me a text, and given the nature of text messages, I would have plenty of time to devise the world's most diplomatic reply, which upon reading it, he would think, wow, that Leah is so nice, and I don't want to date her either. I never expected in this text-centric world that he would call me, or that he would leave a really nice voicemail asking me to go on a second date. So I once again was forced to make a plan. I paced back and forth in my apartment for at least an hour, figuring out what I was going to say, and I was ready. I picked up the phone, and as soon as I heard his voice, I forgot everything I was going to say. I blubbered through the conversation, trying to convey that I didn't have romantic feelings, only friendly ones, but I found the words, "Let's be friends," pouring out of my mouth. It's okay though, I'm quick on my feet. I knew I really didn't want to be friends with this guy, so I followed up with, "Actually, I already have enough friends." I hung up and heard what I assume was the sound of his heart falling out of his chest onto the floor, and for the last time, Leah Cole, I made a plan. I pulled out that phone and I deleted each and every one of those apps. And that, fellow Toastmasters, is how I single-handedly am protecting the hearts and souls of the men of the Bay Area.
Okay, I'm assuming that was part of the humorous speech contest.
I think so.
So how did she do?
She did a really great job. Did you notice she had a lot of variety? The first one was, "How hard could it be?" delivered with appropriate tone. She had nice pauses to emphasize the point she wanted to make. She used a variety of tones from high, low volume to really portray her feelings each time. I thought she did a nice job with the objectives.
You know, I thought so as well. And we talked a little bit before she gave her speech about taking ordinary situations. I think everyone can relate to dating, and I have to admit she had a few creepy ones that I was like, oh, okay. Don't think I've had anyone quite that creepy, but it's definitely something that you can relate to, as well as the whole, you know, this is a lot of work. Maybe I'll just stay home and talk to the cats or whatever. So, you know, I can relate to that as well. Would you have any suggestions on what she might want to do differently next time?
I think if I were going to, I mean, it's been a well-crafted speech, so she did a very nice job. I think there are probably some places where she could have added more dramatic, longer pauses to make her point. And I think as good as her variety was, she could have gone even louder and softer on a couple of occasions to really punctuate her ideas.
Okay. I'd almost say over the top a little bit, but you know, you're kind of making fun of things anyway, so why not?
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. So let's go ahead and take our next break. You're watching Toastmaster Time, and we'll be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. We've got a couple minutes that I get to chat with our evaluator. George, we have something special tonight. What is so special about tonight's show?
Tonight's show is the 20th anniversary of Toastmaster Time Television. This show's been running continually for 20 years.
My gosh, we're obviously going to celebrate. Now, how long have you been with the show?
I've been with the show for 11 years. I joined not very long after I got into Toastmasters, really.
My goodness. And, you know, I do happen to remember the person who kind of dragged me into this, which would have been you. So, obviously, you're very much into the show. What has kept you with the show for so long?
Trish, it turns out to be quite a challenge. We all join Toastmasters to communicate better, to speak better, to speak in different environments, and there's no more unusual and different environment than the television studio. The viewers can't see it, but we have bright lights on us. It's very constrained. It's a very different environment. So bringing the opportunity to practice speaking in this very different environment of the television studio is something I've just found fascinating and enjoyed doing.
Okay, so tell you what, I remember you pulled up a couple clips of the very first show. What were some of the big differences that you noticed between that show versus where we are today?
Our production values are completely different. In that first clip that you're thinking of, we had one person standing by herself with a wire trailing along the studio floor. And she was dressed nicely, she was enthusiastic, she did a good job, but none of the things that the viewers see before us here were present. So we have had a lot of time to refine how the show works and to structure how we have our speakers going at it.
You know, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to make some predictions for the next 20 years.
20 years.
Now this studio where we tape at, it upgraded not that long, a couple years ago I guess now, to high definition. That was a big step forward. I'm going to predict that by the year, whatever 20 years is, 37, we're all going to be in 4K or better. The studio will go through an upgrade again. We may even try maybe some virtual sets or some green screen. Doesn't that sound interesting?
It does. In fact, maybe the Internet of Things will be video recording us while we're in the studio. Maybe we won't even come to the studio. I don't know.
No. It's too much fun here. We enjoy the camaraderie here. So, no. We want to enjoy everyone here. So what do you think might be different? That was my prediction. What is your prediction?
Oh, my prediction is that we will continue to refine the show. We will find ways of giving speakers even different opportunities to go about doing things. As you say, the definition will be higher and higher and higher, and we will continually refine the production values that we bring to the set.
Oh, wonderful. You know, just something that happened very recently that we were so glad we had this studio. Toastmasters wanted to put together a testimonial video for the new Pathways program. Can you explain what it took to achieve that and how just having the facilities?
Sure.
Well, tell you what, we'll save that for another show, but why don't we have a little toast on Toastmaster Time TV and looking forward to the next 20 years.
To 20 years.
20 years. But it looks like that's our show. If you are interested in more information about our show, we tape in the San Francisco Bay Area. You can go to our website at toastmastertime.com. We're sponsored by District 57 of Toastmasters. There you can find local information on their website. That's d57tm.org. Or if you'd like more information about Toastmasters International or where to find a club near you, you can go to the Toastmasters website at toastmasters.org. We'd like to thank all of our volunteers here at the Palo Alto Media Center because without them, we don't have a show. I'd also like to thank our guests, Shyam Nath, Leah Cole, and of course, our evaluator, George Marshall. My name is Trish Gray. I've been your host. We encourage you to keep talking and join Toastmasters.